I want to just really warmly welcome everybody. I'm Rabbi Mark Soloway. I know many of you, but certainly not all of you. This is a collaboration between Congregation Bonai Shalom and Congregation Rodef Shalom, and also very happy to welcome Rabbi Lynn Goldsmith and some of her congregation in Fort Collins, and wishing you Nechama, Lynn, on the very recent loss of your father. I think you're here. I think I saw you earlier. This is really exciting. Very, 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 very thrilled and privileged to welcome both Anat Hoffman and Nechama Namal from Women of the Wall. Nechama Namal is the director of philanthropy, and Anat Hoffman is the chair of the board and also the executive director of the Israel Religious Action Center, and an incredible activist. At Congregation Bonai Shalom, we read Anat's prayer for Israel almost every Shabbat, that I first discovered when I was at Ikar in Los Angeles, and it's a prayer they use there, and I was inspired by it and decided to adopt it for us at Bonai Shalom. So thank you for that, among all of the other things. Before we formally welcome Anat, I just want to very briefly share my experience, because at least twice I got to experience Women of the Wall from the other side of the Mechitza. There's every month, I assume this still happens it's been a few years since I've been there, but there's a pretty strong group of supportive men who stand close, sort of, and I feel like it's a really important role, because we sort of hold their backs, and we have the experience of what it's like to be on the other side of the Mechitza, and to be there in a supportive role, but not leading, but very loudly saying Amen to the brachot, to the blessings that the women are saying on the other side. And it was very impactful for me, not just because it was very moving to see what was happening, but also because it was incredibly upsetting to see there were literally people going like red in the face with anger, screaming at me for being, such a terrible heretic. And I don't even want to go into all of those stories, but we'll hear some of those stories. But I feel like it was powerful for me to be there. And I've known about Women of the Wall for really, I think, since its inception, and known some of the amazing women who have been running it. And Anat Hoffman, as well as being the chair of the board, is one of the founding members of it, and we will hear her stories. But before we do, I want to introduce my friend and colleague, Rabbi Rachel Kobrin, Rabbi of Rodef Shalom, who we're partnering with on this, who has some very special stories about her own experiences and her daughter's experiences at Women of the Wall.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to try to do a screen share. We'll see if I can do it with a picture. I first experienced Women of the Wall in 1998 to 2000 when I was living in Jerusalem. I was studying at Pardes and studying at some other places and working. And every month I would get up early and go to the Kotel on Rosh Chodesh to daven with Women of the Wall. And it felt like incredibly meaningful, exhilarating experience that was focused on both spirituality and activism. And even at that age, I was really committed to both soulful, engaging prayer and a sense of spirituality, putting on my tefillin and my tallit and having the opportunity to do that with other women, especially, and activism around social and political issues. And I was so grateful to have Women of the Wall growing in its presence at that point. Now, since then, Women of the Wall has grown tremendously with its leadership and its statements and the sort of activism that it's continued to take on. And when we were back in Israel with my daughter and my son, after my daughter turned 13, we, of course, arrived in Israel the day before, and then sure enough, Women of the Wall was the next day. We were so excited to go to the Kotel for Rosh Chodesh and daven with them. We got up early, we were jet lagged, but we still did that. And, we're standing outside and we're seeing already outside of the gates, young women lined up and preparing themselves to come in and try to torment us while we're davening. We could experience that and see that from being outside of the gates before going through security, hearing people, they were practicing with their whistles, and I'm really just trying to create chaos even before we got into the Kotel. So I'm gonna see if I can share this picture of, I do not have the ability to do screen sharing. So if someone shifts that, I can do a little screen share. But right now I can't. I'm hoping that.
Go for it. You do now.
Do I know? Okay, so here is a picture. Okay, so here is a picture of us at the Kotel. So we went, and first, let's see if I can do like a little, okay, so first we're at the Kotel and we davened. Noah had her tefillin on. I'm gonna try to show that picture in a second as well. And was holding the tallit above the Torah, which is often what's done when it's right at the Kotel. Now, when I used to daven at Remnant of the Wall at the Kotel, in 1998 to 2000, we would daven the service at the wall, but then we would actually leave to read Torah because there were all sorts of reasons that the leadership at that time wasn't willing to sort of push the envelope that much. But now, thank God, there has been a huge emphasis on continuing to elevate our prayers through Torah reading at the Kotel. So there was Torah reading that day, and Noah actually held the tallit above the Torah. And then as we were walking out, Anat Hoffman was there, and she wanted Noah, this little 13-year-old, to hold the Torah as we were walking through the plaza. And Noah was jet lagged and wasn't sure she was going to say yes. And then Anat just gave it to her. And there you can see her with a beaming smile holding the Torah as we're walking through. You can see the photographer, and there were, crowds of people, and there were people surrounding her to sort of support her because she had the Torah. But she looks back on this experience knowing now that that was, unique and shouldn't have been. That there are not that many 13-year-old girls who've had the opportunity to carry a Torah through the plaza at the Western Wall. And that is not the way that it should be. And that is why it is so incredible, so incredibly important that Women of the Wall is doing their transformative work, because it's through this work that we can actually make changes in Israel in ways that elevate women, elevate egalitarianism, and elevate women's voices. I want to pass it over to Anat, but I want to just see if I can share one more picture, and this is Debbie Ginsburg, who I think might be on this call now. If you can all see this, she was reading Torah at the 30th anniversary of Women of the Wall, and she is a member of Rodef Shalom, also a Torah reader in our congregation. And I'll just share a couple of other photos if I have them. So I just saw that Del Marcus is on this call as well, and Judy, both Dale, Judy, and Debbie went for the 30th anniversary, but I think that this was actually not the 30th anniversary. This was maybe the 25th anniversary that they were there as well. And then one more picture. This is, you can see little Noah with her tefillin and tallit on at the Western Wall. So thank you so much to all of the leadership of Women of the Wall, to Nahama, to Anat, who are both here today, for your tremendous vision and all of the incredibly holy work you do. And I will pass it over now to Anat to take us away.
Before we do, just a little bit, if you can stop sharing your screen.
Oh, I do that. Okay, so now you're seeing, great.
And I just want to say very quickly that just some housekeeping. You do have a closed caption option if you want to see closed captions. They might come out weird. They usually do. And also to say that we are recording this session, and it is also being shown on Facebook Live through the Bonai Shalom Facebook page. So,
and thank you so much for recording it, because I know that there are a number of people from my congregation who are not able to be on here right now, mainly because of child responsibilities, but are really hoping to tune in later today. Thank you.
So without further ado, we are very, very, very honored to have activist and amazing stories from Anat Hoffman, who has been an inspiration to so many people, and we're delighted to have you here.
So Toda Rabba, thank you for hosting us. Let me just say that not every congregation invites us, because some rabbis believe that a straight diet of just wonderful things about Israel, rah-rah Israel, will make their congregants love Israel more. And your rabbis seem to believe that you are mature enough to handle the truth. And here's some hard truths about Israel and about something that needs to change and how we're changing it together. So, right to you. We're going to start with a short video. I want to show you what it's like to try to bring a Torah to the women's section of the wall. A Torah that is, as you know, a major part of the of a Jewish service. There are 200 Torah scrolls for men's use in the men's side, but people from the female persuasion are not to read Torah, not to hold Torah, because the Torah, as the rabbi recently wrote in an answer to the court, is an instrument for disturbing the peace. When women read it, it's an instrument for disturbing the peace. And bringing a Torah to the women at the wall is actually a religious act contrary to local custom, which offends the feelings of others and punishable by 6 months imprisonment. You're probably scratching your head and you're saying, how could that be? Shouldn't Israel be the Club Med for the Jewish soul, the Disneyland of the Jews? Shouldn't there be all these ways of practicing Judaism in Israel? Well, let me tell you something that my colleague and good friend Nechama told me. She made Aliyah, she immigrated to Israel from Phoenix. Tell me, Nechama, were you freer as a Jew in Phoenix than you are in Modi'in, Israel?
Without a doubt, doubt. I could be a proud Reformed Jew there, and here I've been told, even at the wall itself, that I don't count.
So there you have it. And now you're going to see a video where you see what happens on Rosh Chodesh, on the new month when we come to the wall. You'll see that the police establishes long barriers, and it happens only on Rosh Chodesh. This is not there all the time. And the security guards are not looking for a bomb or a hand grenade or a knife. They're looking for a Torah. They're searching for a Torah on the bodies of women. We go through a physical search. We're now in court trying to stop that, but physical search. People who come 2 hours before our service are not searched. People who come 2 hours after our service are not searched. This is not the regular security of the wall. This is a special security to stop women from reading Torah. This is hard to understand, considering we belong to a religion that defines the religion of the child by the religion of the mother. So what is the point of making the mothers not close to Torah? Many of our rabbis spend a lifetime trying to bring women closer to Torah. In fact, one of the wonderful things in joining Women of the Wall is once you're with us, you will never say no to Torah. If you're offered Torah in your congregation, either to open the ark, to hold in your arms, or to read, you'll never say no once you're with us, and you'll see how much we fight for the right to have one. So here it goes. If you could show the video.
Put on your face, know your place. Shut up and smile, I could do that. 'Cause no one knows me, no one ever will. If I don't say something, take that dry blue pill. They may see a monster, they may run away, but I have to do this. I can't keep quiet. Oh, no. Oh, I can't keep quiet. No.
So I can't keep quiet. You will see later when we have our dialogue, one of you may not unmute themselves. I would like you to know that the moment when we are all saying, unmute yourself, is a sacred moment. And I would like this whole session to be a request from Women of the Wall to you to unmute yourself. Now, some North American Jews say, what right do I have to interfere in internal Israeli affairs? I don't send my children to the army there. I don't pay taxes there. It's a sovereign country, and how would I like if someone would interfere in our country's issues? I would like to argue that no one can tell you that you don't have a seat at the table when we discuss what are the Jewish values of the Jewish state. Given the fact that Israel is probably the most important historical development in our lifetime, no one can tell a Jew that you don't have a say whether the values of Israel are ethnocentrism, chauvinism, racism, or equality, tolerance, and pluralism. No one can tell you that you don't have a seat at the table. Not even the taxi driver taking you from the airport to the hotel, telling you on the way that you are an ATM, just put up and shut up. You are comfortable over there in America, and we are all in the war here, and we are fighting, and that's not true. Just so you know, the number of Israelis that go to the army, last year in 2020, only 46% of the eligible kids went to the army, meaning that half of the Israelis do not send their children to the army. And those who go to the army, the numbers are that only 1 in 10 is in combat. Not everyone who tells you that he's in the army actually served in combat. In fact, 9 out of 10 are not in combat. And as it comes to taxes, Israel leads the OECD in tax evasion. Let's not compare. Israel is paying taxes. You have a right to say what kind of a Jewish state you envision, whether or not you send children to the army, whether or not you pay taxes, whether or not you are an Israeli. Look, Israel, whenever we have a problem, a challenge, we come to you hat in hand, and we ask you to support that. We have fires in the Carmel, we had a war, we have a famine, we have locusts, you name it. We've got a Jewish organization fundraising for Israel, telling you that it's your business. Why the war on the soul of Israel is not your business? Of course it is your business. And we are 2 Israelis, Nechama and I, but we represent a very large group of women in Israel from all denominations. We are Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox, and unaffiliated together, Women of the Wall. In fact, one of our biggest achievements is that we have one Siddur. We fought for 6 years over every letter, but we do have one text for all of us to pray from together. And it certainly enables our Orthodox sisters to have their special way of praying, and the Conservative and the Reform. We're very respectful, but we have one text. We broke the partition between ourselves. Despite the fact that we belong to different denominations, we are sisters, because what is uniting us is much bigger than what divides us. We broke the partition between us and Jews of the diaspora. There are Women of the Wall in Brazil, in South Africa, in New Zealand. And recently, we broke another partition. There are Women of the Wall who are men. I would dare say that Rabbi Soloway is a woman of the wall from the male persuasion. And there are men who come to Women of the Wall every month. There are 50 of them, and they are sometimes, they go through the ringer. As you said, securing our back and making sure that we are safe, particularly when we come to and leave the wall. Last week, we had Rosh Chodesh Iyar, the month of independence, and we had a wonderful occurrence. A new member of Knesset Member of Knesset Gilad Kariv, the first Reform rabbi to enter the Israeli parliament. His first action right after being sworn in was to take our Torah scroll, to take his immunity, his brand new parliamentary immunity, and to march to the wall with a Torah scroll, giving the women of the wall a chance to read from the Torah. If you could show a picture of that, it would be wonderful. You have Yes, so he brought the Torah to us. I would like to say something about our Torah scroll. It weighs 3.2 kilo, like an infant, just born infant. It's the size of an infant. And it doesn't belong to us. We actually insisted that it is on loan from the congregation Bnei Israel from Sacramento, California. We were offered 12 Torah scrolls. We chose the one from Bnei Israel because of its size. It was written 300 years ago in Ashkenaz, in Germany. Probably Jews had to hide Torah there also. That's why they needed such a small Torah from other enemies. Anyway, we chose it because of the name of the congregation, because we believe that eventually the powers that be will confiscate our Torah scroll, and we will go to the Supreme Court with a case called Bnei Israel versus the State of Israel. See, it belongs to Bnei Israel, and we wanted to illustrate the point that Torah belongs to Bnei Israel, and denying us the right to read Torah is wrong, immoral, not Jewish, and we believe it is our sacred job to make sure it doesn't, we stop that. The Rabbi of the Wall wrote a book recently, I'm holding it here, Hilchot HaKotel, look at the size of it. It costs around 300 shekel and it weighs around 2.5 kilos. In the whole book, there are hundreds of photographs, not one of them of a woman. Now that takes some acrobatics because, to take a picture of the wall without getting a woman in the frame, that's a bit difficult, but he was successful. And there are two comments that he writes in page Kuf Pei Bet about women. One, should I read it in Hebrew? Okay. יש נשים כשהן בנידותן במשך ימי ראייתן, נזהרות הן מלגשת אל הכותל המערבי ולרחבה שלפני הכותל שדינה לעניין זה כעניין בית כנסת. Women who are menstruating refrain from touching the wall or from touching being in the plaza, which is an ultra-Orthodox synagogue. I didn't know it is an ultra-Orthodox synagogue. The second thing is, שלא יסתכלו בספר תורה בשעה שמגביהים אותו, that women should not be gazing at the Torah scroll when it is in Hagbah, the lifting of the Torah, when it is lifted in the men's section. And this is it in the whole book. Hi, Fran. In the whole book, this is the only thing he has to say about women. Don't touch the wall and don't look at Torah.
Did you get the thing I brought you?
Woo! Okay, so
Well, keep it anyway. I don't need it. Hopefully, I won't ever need it again.
Can everybody please mute themselves? We can hear a conversation going on.
Okay.
okay, so
Oh no.
I want to explain to you the legal issue regarding a Torah. We're actually allowed to read from the Torah.
Well, that's good.
Rabbi
That's good.
does not allow us to bring
All
the
right,
object.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Bye.
Everyone
Thank
could
God.
take a look at their mute.
Please, could everybody mute them? So we just had a whole other conversation. Thank you.
It was a nice conversation. Okay, so we're not allowed to bring the object from which to read. Do you understand the legal thing here? We're allowed to read, but we can't bring the Torah from which to read. This is craziness. So what are we intending to do on Rosh Chodesh Sivan coming up? Sivan is the month of Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah. This is our plan. Not sure we're going to do it. We may abort in the last minute, but the idea is like that. We asked many congregations from all over the United States and all over the world, actually, to send us the coats of the Torah, the Me'ilim, the covering of the Torah. And Nechama, could you tell us, please, how many coats like that we have and from where?
Oh my goodness. We have almost 100, and most of them are from the US and some are from Canada, and we probably have at least one from Europe.
They are in white, in silver, in red, in green. They are from velvet. They are from satin. They are from cotton. They have little glitter on it. They have embroidery on it. They have names for all sorts of people. We have 100 coats, empty coats. And what we're thinking of doing is doing a parade. We have 100 kids. We're going to give it to kids over bar mitzvah age, kids who are in the pre-military programs. We'll have them lift it in the air, protesting the fact that we can't have a Torah in the coat. We just have the empty coat. When we'll arrive at the security gate, the big question is, will the rabbi allow us in or not? He may say that not only are we not allowed to bring a Torah in, we're not allowed to bring the empty coat of the Torah in. Soon he's going to forbid us from saying words that start with the letter T, because it's T rhymes with Torah and Torah is forbidden. Do you understand that all this is happening in Israel, in the one Jewish state on the planet? There's a lawsuit that was recently won by another organization called Israel Chofshit about an issue that has to do with Passover. Israel Chofshit went to the Supreme Court saying that it is not right, it is unjust, that people coming to a hospital or any government institution during Passover, the security guards check their bags again, not for bombs or knives or whatever, but for non-kosher LePesach food. So there is this Druzi, non-Jewish security guard looking at a can of trina and trying to figure out, is that kosher or not kosher? Or looking in a sandwich, that is the sandwich made of kosher LePesach bread. You know, there is this bread that even McDonald's has, this buns made from kosher LePesach stuff. Is that the kosher stuff or is not the kosher stuff? The Supreme Court of Israel ruled that this is wrong. This must stop. This is an abuse of the cooperation that the public has with the security guards. We open our bags for what? We open our bags because we want to be protected from terrorists, right? That's why we cooperate. We don't open our bags to be checked for food that is not kasher, and certainly we don't expect the food to be confiscated and thrown into a barrel next to the security guy. So how does that affect women of the wall? Just like the security guards in hospitals are not allowed any longer to check bags for non-kosher Pesach food, the security guards at the wall will stop checking our bags for a Torah scroll. And the minute they will stop checking for a Torah scroll, ladies and gentlemen, we will be bringing one in. Because we really want to read Torah. And the reason we want to read Torah is because it's it's a little strange that I have to explain that, but it's an integral part of the Jewish service. And we want to have bat mitzvah girls have a service with us, and we have to offer them the Torah, right? I will end with one comment and then I'll open it up to your dialogue. I'm dying to hear you, but one more comment. In my youth, I was a swimming champion, and in swimming, especially if you want to be a very good swimmer, you need to, there are two things you need to know. One is that you cannot swim without getting wet. Did you know that? This is a physical impossibility. You do get wet when you swim. And the second thing is how to pull. If you want to pull in an effective way and and swim as fast as possible, you need to pull right under your belly, meaning right under the center of gravity of your body. You can pull to the side, and many people do that. They don't move very fast. In fact, they don't move at all. You need to move. If you want to move, you need to pull against center of gravity. Ladies and gentlemen, the wall is the center of gravity of religious coercion in the state of Israel. Women of the wall are focusing on that particular place because that's, if we make a change there, it will radiate to a lot of other things. We want 4 things. We want to put on our phylacteries. We want to pray out loud. We want to put on our tallitot, and we want to read from the Torah. I want to show you my tallit after last month's prayer. I don't know if you can see that it is completely covered with coffee stains. One of our sisters abroad said it looks like tears. Someone wanted to express his dissatisfaction from the fact that I'm wearing a tallit and threw boiling coffee at me. I want to share with you something very moving, that a woman from Connecticut, her name is Cantor Deborah Kochko Gray, went home, embroidered this tallit. Look at this, is hand embroidered. And she embroidered it on a stain resistant material. So when I come to the wall, if they throw coffee at me, look at the color of the tallit, you won't even notice it's coffee color. It will be stain resistant. This is a good thing. It's wonderful that she did that. But we need to go further. I don't want women of the wall to have stain resistant talitot. I want the bullies to stop throwing coffee at us. Is that too much to ask? Okay, so here's how we're going to do it. I'm dying to hear what you have to say. I've heard me before. Nechama and I are very curious to hear your voices. Please don't silence yourself saying, oh, my question is silly. It's never silly. Those who start and say my question is silly usually ask the hardest, most important, pointed questions. Second, don't worry about hurting my feelings. I was the head of the opposition in the City Council of Jerusalem. You can't even invent something that would hurt my feelings. So let's just go on and just say what's on your mind.
Can I just, before we do that, thank you so much, Anat, but just process-wise, I'm going to put everyone into gallery, but maybe people can raise their hands if they want to say something.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
If a lot of people want to speak, it might be a little hard. So I'm going to take the spotlight off you. If everyone's in gallery view, then we'll be able to look out for hands. I see Meredith's hand first. So go ahead, Meredith.
We have some in the chat too that we might want to read.
Yeah, there was a question in the chat. I'm assuming that's a relative of yours.
That's my parents.
Your parents.
Shout out to my parents.
So do you want to start with their question?
Sure.
And then we'll go to Meredith.
They're asking about how you got that Torah in for the video, how it was confiscated, like how you got it past the people who try to confiscate these things.
If I tell, we won't be able to use this method again.
Nice.
So if your parents want to call me and I can't really disclose that.
Good answer.
Go ahead, Meredith. Yours was the hand I saw first.
Hi, Anat. Thank you for joining us. I'm Meredith. I've got 3 daughters that are 2, 7, and 10. And a huge regret I have when we lived in Israel for 2 years, 2007 to 2009, where I was at Hebrew U, was only going to Women of the Wall once, because getting up early then was not cool. Now I'm always up early. So I have 2 questions. One is, well, our family Israel trip has been delayed, but I do have a dream of bringing my daughters, these older ones especially. I watch your, I also stay up very late. So I watch your live streams on Facebook each month. So keep doing that. Thank you. How do you prepare preteen girls to join you when there seems to be an increase in violence, people screaming? So that's one question, because it seems to be a little bit different than maybe 2007, 2008, 2009 when I was in Israel. And then my second question is for those very obnoxious midrashah girls screaming in your faces, do you ever try to reach out to like their Rosh Yeshiva or interact with them outside of Rosh Chodesh?
Told you that I get quite unbelievable 2 questions, really. How to prepare, I really don't know. You have to gauge your own children. You're gonna have to say to them that there are people that really don't want to hear girls' voices. They don't want women to touch Torah. And we're going to something that is not gonna be very easy. Drive with us, don't come on your own. Take our bus. We offer a bus of Women of the Wall. Come with us on the bus. We will envelop you and your girls. We will protect you. We know what's going on. But the reason I knew that when Rabbi Rachel showed the photographs that these are not from our 30th anniversary, but from our 25th, is because on our 30th, we never got to read Torah. 15,000 demonstrators came to stop our celebration. We don't have 15,000 coming now. We have around 1,000. And many of them are men. But yes, there are young women who come with the express desire to ruin our prayer. Nechama, why don't you tell us a little bit about Wendy, the Women of the Wall's social media expert?
No, with joy. About a year ago, a gal named Wendy joined our staff, and she's amazingly talented and very, very dedicated to our cause. And Wendy was raised ultra-Orthodox in New York. And she came to Israel for her gap year to attend a seminary with other girls. And they were told before coming to the wall at Rosh Chodesh that they would encounter Women of the Wall, and that we were evil, and that they were to do everything in their power to disturb us and to make it very uncomfortable for us to be at the site. And so Wendy went with her friends and was prepared to, meet these terrible women who were doing horrible things. And she was very surprised that that wasn't how it all spun out. And afterwards, she returned to the US, and then she made Aliyah, and she came to work for us. And she said that she just couldn't understand what someone didn't see about us, and who could not see the beauty of women gathering together every month to have this beautiful prayer service on a glorious Jerusalem morning at 7 o'clock. And that she fully believes that women should have the ability to pray as they wish at the wall. And she promotes this ideal constantly. She blogs a lot in Times of Israel. She does our social media, and she's just been an absolute blessing and an asset to our organization. So thank you, Anat, for letting me share.
Yeah.
Can I just say about those pictures? So yes, they may have both been the ones of Debbie and Dal and Judy. They have both been from the 25th, but some of us actually stayed up super late here in Colorado to watch what happened at the 30th when you guys were moved. And then because we were waiting, because Debbie did read at the 30th, where were you moved to? Where did you end up reading from?
Robinson's Arch. But let me go back to the question about what have we done to try to stop those young women from bothering us. We reached out to them. I think your idea of reaching out to their teachers is a very excellent one, Meredith. I thank you for that. Somehow we thought this is something we can't even dream about, but as usual, great ideas come from the diaspora. So we will look into that. But I can tell you one thing that one mother told me just a few months ago. She said that she's a mother of 9, and that one of her daughters menstruated. And for that, she had a special morning with Ima to go to the wall and say a blessing together, just mom and her daughter, which is rare, because when you have that many children, you rarely go with one kid. And she said, I came to the wall for this very special moment And then you came with your circus and you ruined our moment. And I said, how did we ruin it? With our prayer. And she said, because my kids started asking me, why not us? Why don't we wear talitot? Why don't we put on phylacteries? Why don't we read Torah? And I don't want to answer why not. I don't want her to ask me why not. And I don't know why the hell not. I don't have an answer. Why not is something we keep away from our family. Well, why not, lady, is the most subversive Jewish question. And why not is what we ask in the Seder. And why not is what we encourage our children to say during the bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah. And why not is you can't go to the public sphere and expect your children not to ask why. So yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I see two hands. Daphne and Dale both have a hand raised. So
the impetus to fight us is because of the why not.
yeah, Daphne.
Thank you, Rabbi Salovey, and thank you so much, Anat Hoffman, for your work. And it is always very emotional for me to watch. As an Israeli citizen, it devastates me that you are the victim of sinat chinam, and it baffles my mind that the Orthodox community or the ultra-Orthodox community, I grew up in the Orthodox community, and the ultra-Orthodox community doesn't see what they're doing. Like it would seem to me that if they took a step back and saw the hatred and violence that they're teaching and they're espousing, that they would understand that their goal for us to have a Beit HaMikdash is never going to happen with this kind of behavior and learning and teaching. That's just a thought. Number two, question. Do you have support in the Knesset other than this one member? Do you, are there other people who run for office? I'm an elected official in Colorado. Are there people who run for office who would be helpful to the cause of the wall? How do we help from the legal end?
So first, Daphne, I'm so proud of you. As Yofi. Yay, Colorado. And second, here's the thing. After 55 of us were arrested and detained for wearing a tallit, for lighting a menorah, for praying out loud, for bringing a Torah, for inciting young girls to having a bat mitzvah. Listen to these crimes. I have a criminal record that I'm so proud of. I'm constantly breaking the same 13th regulation of the law of holy places. Remember the regulation? One cannot perform a religious act contrary to local custom, which offends the feelings of others. Look how many things are wrong with this regulation. One, tell me, by the way, if someone throws a chair at me at the wall, is that breaking that regulation? Does that hurt my feelings? No. Anyone performing a religious act, throwing a chair is plain assault. It's not a religious act. This is the 13th regulation is only for the women of the wall. It is called the Women of the Wall regulation. Okay, so anyone performing a religious act contrary to local custom. Who the hell decides what's local custom? Which offends the feelings of others. What kind of a seismograph catches and gauges the feelings of others? So this regulation is really very wrong, and 55 of us were arrested for breaking it. That caused a tremendous outcry in North America. I'm so grateful for you that you jumped out of your skin over this. It came to the point that Netanyahu was not able to come to any American forum without some lady or some guy asking him, why are you arresting women in Israel for doing what's so normal here? So as a result of this, Yaakov Amidro, who was a strategic advisor to Netanyahu, wrote a paper called Women of the Wall as a Strategic Threat to Israeli Interests in North America. As a result of this paper, Netanyahu turned to Natan Sharansky, who was then the chair of the Jewish agency, and asked him to find a solution. Sharansky is a gifted chess player and a hero. He'll figure it out. And Sharansky came up with a suggestion, a solution. And for 3 years, we negotiated the Kotel agreement. It took 1,000 days. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a parking spot at the Prime Minister's office. We sat there forever and we came up with a 45-page document that states that there will be 2 plazas right next to each other. One ultra-Orthodox as it is today, and one pluralistic, equal, egalitarian, open, friendly, no partition. And if someone needs a partition, they can stand right next to each other, but they cannot have a partition. You want a partition? You go to the other side of the wall. And there are 12 million people who come to visit the wall every year. And the idea was that every person will decide with their feet if they belong to the ultra-Orthodox plaza or do they want to go to the egalitarian plaza. So your pressure actually made a very big difference. So here's the answer to your question, Daphna. 4 parties who are now in the Knesset, in their platform, adopted the Kotel agreement. And these are not small parties. Are they going to implement it? It depends a lot on what happens in North America. The truth is, I think that Netanyahu did not have to face any consequences when he annulled the agreement we worked on for 3 years. He went to AIPAC in 2016. He announced that he found a solution. 20,000 people stood and cheered on their feet, saying, this is wonderful. And in 2017, when he came back and he said that he annulled it, there were no boos. He was invited again to AIPAC. It was fine. And I think if you used your power, if you, as members of Hadassah, of AJC, of AIPAC, of J Street, of all the organizations you're members of, if you had resolutions demanding the implementation of the Kotel agreement, that would make a difference. I know that because, you know, we won the conversion case because of your pressure. You should broaden the menu. Not just conversion should bother you, but altogether religious pluralism in the state of Israel.
Can you just tell me the name of the 4 parties?
Yes, Kahol Lavan, Avoda, Meretz, and Lieberman, Israel Beitei.
So Dale's hand is the one I saw next, and then Barbara has a hand raised also, Barbara Zimmerman.
Hi, Anat. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. You actually already answered my question, but I have a couple of comments. So I was there for the 30th anniversary with Judy and Debbie, and part of me was so proud to be there with you. The other part, I have to admit, was traumatized. Being attacked by those 15,000 young women was something I never thought I'd experience in my life. And until maybe 6 months ago, I didn't think I'd ever go back to the Kotel. But with all the work that you do and believing in it, next time I go to Israel, I will go, but it's taken me 3 years and some PTSD, you know, to get through that. I just wanted to share a couple of things. So you did answer only 1,000 come now, because I wanted to know if it was still on Rosh Chodesh, the 15,000. That was so awful. I did not put my tallit on until we got to the plaza, but I always wear my kippah, and I had wanted to walk there. And the young women were trying to pull it off my head. And I turned to one of them, my Hebrew is fairly fluent, and I said, would you treat your mother like this? And her answer was, if my mother wore a kippah, I would push her down to the ground. I was shocked, absolutely shocked. So that was one thing. On a positive note, and I'm sure you remember this woman's name, I don't remember her name. She is a rabbi from the Bay Area. She has very long, white, curly hair. She brought one of those little stools and she sat down. I was very scared for her because they were pushing on her. She just calmly was explaining to them what we were there doing. And 2 of the 5 or 6 young women started to cry, and they agreed with her and they left. So, you know, they say if you get through to save one person, it's like saving the world. She got through to 2 of those young women, and it was so beautiful. So those are my comments. And please keep doing what you're doing. I'm also on the National Board of Hadassah, so I will take what you said to the Hadassah board to see if we can come up with a resolution to get the, to appeal to the government to keep this agreement. So thank you for that suggestion. I will take it to our next National Board meeting.
Dale, do you have any advice to Meredith? How to prepare her children for the visit?
You know, it's very difficult. Debbie and Judy had been at the 25th, so they tried to prepare me, and they said, the men will yell at you, they will spit at you, they will throw stones at you, but they will not come close to you. They were not prepared for this either. I think, Meredith, you had shared that you watch Anat and the Women of the Wall on Facebook. I think that it would be helpful to have your older daughter watch that.
Great idea.
Yeah, and you really see what's happening, talk about it. And it's kind of like, you know, you think of the civil movement here in the States where they are at the bridge, the South locking arms together, walking across the bridge. I think to share with her daughters the strength in numbers. And we did that too at the 30th, when they tried to knock us over. We all locked arms together. So we were one. And so you felt part of that community. And I think that's important. But I tell Meredith to have her older daughter watch.
That's a good idea. Let me just mention that the rabbi that you are describing is Rabbi Pam Friedman from
That's right.
California. She's from Renewal. She's from the movement Renewal. And her specialty is Shoah education. What she does all year round is teach people about Shoah. And she was the only one who was able to penetrate everybody, the hearts. Amazing. Yeah.
Dale, are you done? I think I'm next.
Yes, Barbara, go.
Yeah, I'm next. Anat, first of all, I've had the pleasure of hearing you when we were here in Denver, Temple Emmanuel, a number of years ago. And, you know, so it's really good to hear you again. I grew up in an Orthodox world, in a modern Orthodox world. And I grew up, you know, I was the first time I went to Israel was in 1964. I could not go to the Kotel. It was, you know, you couldn't go. It was still Jordan, held by Jordan. So the first time that I got to go was 3 weeks after the 6-day war. And at that time, everybody was going. I don't even remember a mechitza. I remember just everybody, you know, the plaza was just all rubble, and just being able to go. I was the first in my family to ever have that privilege of going. I go to Israel very frequently, except during COVID, because my daughter now lives there and I have family there. And I always made it a point of going to the Kotel, not, you know, it wasn't strange to me to go behind a mechitza. But when I was in Israel in 2012 for the Hadassah convention, I put this in the chat, but I don't know how many people read it. I went for the Hadassah convention. It happened to be Rosh Chodesh. So you were having a service at night, the Kotel. And they had buses to take us from our hotels to the Kotel. And they just said, we're going to a Women of the Wall service. They did not give us any preparation in terms of your role in it or that it might be controversial. I thought that was such a wonderful, empowering experience. And we got there was a balagan, you were arrested. Hadassah people were running around screaming, take off your credentials, take off your credentials. We don't want to be in the middle of this. It just left such a powerful impression on it, and with a lot of confusion as to why were they arresting you? What did you do wrong? And of course, you know, following the story, and you know, I'm friendly with Debbie and Judy and Dale, and I know, you know, their experience of what happened when they came for the anniversary. I just want to commend you for everything that you're doing. I mean, I still go to the Kotel even on the women's side, because to me, I just have to be there. It's something that I just can't let go of. But I give you all the kavod, everything that you are doing, and please keep it up.
I want to tell you about that night. I was honored and delighted to oblige Hadassah to give you the Bruchot Habaot and to say a Shechianu with you at the wall that night. Your program was that right after this, you were going to the Binyanei Ha'uma, one of the largest amphitheaters in Jerusalem, and they give Mr. Netanyahu the Henrietta Zold Medal,
Right.
100 years to Hadassah. I was arrested for saying the Shechianu for you.
Is that what it was?
And it was one of the missed opportunities and tragic mistakes of the organization to say, let's take off our credentials. Let's run and give the Prime Minister the Henrietta Zold Medal and leave the leader of the Women of the Wall to spend the night in jail. I had the difficulty explaining to the prostitute that was with me and the car thief and the child molester, what am I in for? I was trying to explain that I was trying to say Shechianu to Hadassah. And when I lost my good mood after a few hours. I had to go through a body search, completely naked, and I had to spend the night in the cell. And I was thinking about Henrietta Zold. And I'm telling you, Barbara, that night she was with me. She wasn't with you in Binyanei Uma. Netanyahu did not deserve the Medal of Hadassah. That night I deserved it.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even know exactly what was happening. Nobody really explained it. They were trying to shut us up. And
that's right.
And
But
from
when
what
I
I
look-
remember, it was out in the plaza. It wasn't even right in front of the Kotel. It was in the plaza, which is sort of neutral territory.
Barbara, if Hadassah wants to have a future, this mistake makes sure that the organization will die. This was the time for the leadership to say no. Now, why did he get the medal? He got the medal because he bailed Hadassah after Bernie Madoff stole you $20 million. That's not what, if Henrietta was alive, she would say that's no cause to give him a medal. No, that's not right. I think Hadassah made it was a very hard night for me to.
So sorry.
Awful night. And I never heard from Hadassah again. And I thought, here is a wonderful organization, really, that had such visionary leadership in the past. And now it acts as if it doesn't want young women to join. Half of the women of the wall are under 25. Hadassah can't say that.
Well, we have some Hadassah leaders here, including Dale, and hopefully they will be able to rectify the situation and make it.
Well, I'm a big fan of Henrietta Zold. And I think, look, sometimes the organizations make a mistake. This was a mistake, but altogether, I think a resolution from Hadassah, mending that mistake. You know, we believe in tikkun. You make a mistake and we believe in tikkun. If Hadassah made a tikkun, meaning that the leadership of Hadassah really full force implement the Kotel agreement. The medalist is the one who brought us that 15 ministers voted for the Kotel agreement versus 15 to 5. It's an important decision that the government made. Push for that to be implemented.
Good luck to you.
I think there's no question that Henrietta Zold was with you that night. That's a very powerful story, and everything I know about Henrietta Zold, that's for sure where she was that night.
I never told it to anyone from Hadassah, Barbara. I don't know what happened that dumped it on you.
It's something that has always resonated with me as to, why? And we couldn't get answers. I mean, it was balagan is the only word I can describe what it was. Balagan. I actually sneaked out because I did want my moment at the Kotel to myself, and I was asking why was this happening? And
look, Barbara, historical moments come to us without a sign saying, this is a historic moment. Just like Rabbi Rachel's daughter, she didn't realize this is a historic moment that she's participating in. Hadassah had a historic moment and didn't realize this is historic. As a women's organization, a leader of another organization that came at your bequest is now going to jail. We stop our program. We don't take our credentials off. We wave our credentials in the air. Hadassah will not put up with it. But the prime minister is waiting. There's a ceremony waiting. No, The prime minister has to stop the arrest. That's what he has to do. I explained to the car thief was actually an expert on German cars. And when I asked her which car you stole tonight, she told me a Volvo. Now I was afraid of her, but I can tell you Volvo is Swedish. It's not a German car. So there.
There's a question in the chat about whether there are any whether there's any recommendations for looking at resolutions that might have been adopted by synagogues or other Jewish organizations that we could look at to draft potential resolutions for ourselves. Are there things like that? There must be.
Yeah, we know, I know of some. Nechama, why don't you take it upon yourself to send some drafts to whoever wants it? Okay,
I'd
you
like
tell us. I know that Advocate Joan Garson from Toronto, Canada, she drafted a resolution for the Jewish Agency. She worked a few weeks on that, and I think she came up with an excellent wording.
I will take care of that tomorrow.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands waving or virtual hands, but yes, I do. Stephanie. Stephanie Greenberg.
Unmute yourself, Stephanie.
Stephanie?
Yeah. Hi, Rabbi.
Oh, there you go. Okay, hi.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Anat. Thanks so much for being with us. I actually typed this in the chat, but I'll ask it. And that is the Mizorti movement in Israel. Are they supporting you? And if they are, in what ways? And if not, then why not?
First, the majority of women of the wall are conservative. Second, my dynamic deputy, the wise, wonderful, phenomenal Tammy Gottlieb, is one of the leaders of the conservative movement in Israel. Yizhar Hess, who until recently was the former president of the conservative movement, showed up at Women of the Wall for 10 years, every month without missing one.
Wow.
They have our backs. If there is the conservative movement of Israel is in all ways, including the pre-military program, the youth movement, whatever they can do, they're doing. I couldn't be more connected to the conservatives. The reform movement too, and as I said, the modern Orthodox communities in Jerusalem do send us quite a few, and we have 3 members of the board who are Orthodox women, and our dynamic executive director, Yochi Rapoport, is Orthodox. So we are from all denominations, but for sure, I think the main support we have is from the conservative movement.
Great, thank you very much.
And maybe as a follow-up, and it might be helpful for people to hear a little bit about some of the other ways that the reform and conservative movements in Israel work together, because they work quite closely on a lot of different issues, don't they? Is that fair?
On the issue of conversion, we went to the courts together, and as you know, a month and a half ago, we won an important historic decision after 15 years in the Supreme Court. Reform and conservative conversions in Israel can give a person the right to become a citizen of Israel. So we went with the 26 plaintiffs. Many of them already received their Teudat Zehut, their identification card, as Israeli citizens, but they are reform and conservative. We also go to court demanding funding for our synagogues, buildings for our synagogues, and financial support to our rabbis. These are all petitions that went to the Supreme Court, reform and conservative together. The reform movement has the Israel Religious Action Center, which serves both movements. And as Isa Hess once said, if the reform movement ever gets the Israel Prize for anything, it will be for the Israel Religious Action Center that represents both movements.
There are 2 more hands now. I see Emmy and Jerry both have a hand raised. So Emmy, welcome, please. You're muted.
Hi, sorry. You know, I think that the Rosh Chodesh service is so important. I did attend for a while here just to find out more about it, the Chabad movement, and the men go to do the Rosh Chodesh, but the women do not. And so I thought, you know, how great it would be if you guys would send an invitation to the synagogues here in the United States to invite the young girls who are bat mitzvah age to participate and get a shofar here, and every month to join you guys here in the States in performing this. Now that then they could bring their shofar with them that they have become used to using to Israel and participate with you there. I just think it would create this link, a heart link, and with this service, which we don't have right now.
Yeah. Well, Chabad is missing the point, because in Talmud times, Rosh Chodesh was a women's holiday because of women's affinity with the monthly cycle. It was, women were off work, women had special foods, women had special celebration. So it really is a women's celebration. That's
I know.
what we do.
I'm a member of a Reform synagogue here. I was just attending there for a while, but I tried to tell them that, but they were not interested in hearing it.
No, they're not. But Emmy, listen, you need to change the Earth's day and night system, because when we pray, it's an ungodly hour. Only Meredith is awake. It's a crazy hour. So I don't see the girls being able to. Rachel too. So you're all crazy. It's really. What time is it? Tell us what time.
I mean that we would do it at our time, just to get in the habit of performing this.
So for that you need a leader. For that you need a leader, and for that you need 8 eager persons. You need to start with 8. 8 is a number. I know Jesus needed 12, but women could do with 8. Take 8 women. Decide that you're going to do Rosh Chodesh Sivan, the Matan Torah, the one that we're doing, and go for it, friend. Just report to us how it's happening. We'd love to. We would love to host Rosh Chodesh groups from all over North America with us in Israel. Go for it. It's great.
Anat, can I add something, please? Emmy, on our Women of the Wall website, we have information about starting a Rosh Chodesh group, and we were introduced to this by Congregation Eitz Chaim, a conservative synagogue in Marietta, Georgia, and they do Rosh Chodesh every single month. And so we created together a plan step by step for groups or communities to start their own Rosh Chodesh groups. So I encourage you to visit our website. And if you pull down at Rosh Chodesh, it says, make it yours. And you'll find resources there. And if you don't find what you need, I'd be more than happy to help you with that.
Thank you, Nechama.
I just, in my I've been in a few different congregations. And when I was in Austin and when I was in Philadelphia, we actually did, both congregations had a Woman of the Wall celebratory Rosh Chodesh service with all women. And both were just so dynamic and spiritual, and created a real opportunity for connection. And at both services, we had women who had davened with Women of the Wall who spoke about their experience. It's really possible, and it can be really quite exhilarating for people.
Do we have access to your email, Nechama?
Yes, I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Jerry had his hand up, no?
Yeah, Jerry Pinsker has his hand up, and I don't know what your time frame is. Talking of different hours, it's getting late in Israel, but I think we were scheduled to go till about 12:30 our time, so we have another few minutes, but we obviously like whatever you, Anat and Nechama want to close us out with. Go ahead, Jerry.
All right, well, first of all, Anat, thank you very much, because this is I've been to Israel. My wife and I have been to Israel twice, and I've been there 3 times. And I knew there were issues, but I didn't realize how serious these issues are. I'm very active with the Anti-Defamation League here in Colorado. Are you aware if the Anti-Defamation League, which is a civil rights organization, has taken any stance on Women of the Wall in support? Because this is obviously discrimination.
Not yet. I can actually, I'm friends with Jonathan Greenblatt, and I can write him that maybe this is something there. But you know what? It would be better that you send him. You tell him.
I have no problem doing that.
You just do that, yeah, and we'll see what he thinks. Look, there's some issues that the ADL is now very active in. For example, racism in Israel, particularly racism that's coming out of the mouths of rabbis. Jerusalem is burning now with incitement against Arab minority in Israel, and it's very important. The ADL is involved in that. But the discrimination against women of the wall, the barring of women from having a safe way to pray, go for it and send us a copy, please.
I will do that. Thank you.
If you don't have other questions, I have a question to you, Rabbi Soloway. Yeah?
Sure.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yes. You are skiing, right?
Shh, don't tell everybody. Yes.
Okay. What's the point? What's the point in moving with great danger to yourself from point A to point B when there's nothing in point B other than going back to point A and again, maybe, breaking your arms and legs and going there again? What's the point?
You really want an answer to that question?
I come from a town where the most snow we had is 1 inch, so I'm just wondering.
There's just nothing, for me, there's nothing as exhilarating as being in the mountains, in the high country, and just savoring the beauty of it, and just the thrill of working the body and getting more skilled at working the body as coming down the mountain. And it's just a great gift and a great privilege. But I don't know if that's, I was not expecting that question. I'm a bit thrown. Not sure how to answer it.
I've been asked, what's the point in spending 32 years trying to pray at the wall? I've heard that too. I guess I need to go to Colorado and do this with you and understand why it's worth breaking your leg for.
You're welcome anytime. It looks like Barbara has her hand raised again.
Yeah, I have a different issue I was going to ask you about, and I don't know if Women of the Wall are involved in this, but many Israeli young couples who do not want to get married by the Rabbanut are actually running to Cyprus and places like that to get legally married. These are Jewish Israeli citizens, go to Cyprus, a civil wedding there. We went to a beautiful chuppah wedding in Israel for my cousins that if it were here in Colorado would have been 100% kosher, and they had to go to Cyprus because it was done by a Reform rabbi. How do Women in the Wall get involved with any of this type of issue? Because it's becoming more common, and then I wonder what happens with the kids of these marriages.
Yes, so we're getting into another big issue that in Israel, there's only one way to get married, and it's Orthodox. And 25% of the new couples who get married do not want to get married Orthodox. We don't have civil marriage, we don't have Reform marriage, we don't have conservative marriage, only Orthodox. And worse, 32% of us get divorced, and there's only one way to get divorced, Orthodox. No Reform divorce, no conservative divorce, and no civil divorce. So the result is that 25% of Israelis flee Israel. I actually wrote a book years ago called 50 Ways to Wed Your Lover. It's out of print. People are going all over the world to try to get married. And in fact, in Cyprus, it's the third largest industry on the island of love is to perform weddings to Israelis and also Lebanese. They have the similar problem. And under a big cross and the picture of the Archbishop of Larnaca or Nicosia, Israelis get married one after the other. At the end of the ceremony, they get a little keychain, says Mazel Tov. They go to a restaurant next door. The menu is in Hebrew, the taxi speaks Hebrew, everything is around doing this wedding. It is poll after poll, 80%, 90% of Israelis want to have freedom of choice in marriage and divorce. And yet I would say it's a very high hanging fruit. I don't think it will change very soon, because despite the fact that so many of us want it, the power of the ultra-Orthodox Rabbanut is depending on the fact that they decide on personal status, and it's not going to be changing very easily. But the pressure is also not very strong, because Israelis found a million ways from Sunday. Is that English? Many ways to improvise a solution to this. Many ways. I can say that in order to explain this to North American Jews, I did two projects last year and the year before. I brought 3 couples who don't want to get married in Israel or can't marry in Israel. I called it 3 weddings and a statement. And if you look up New York Times, 3 weddings and a statement, you'll see how we took over the whole wedding section of the New York Times. We brought a gay couple. We brought a couple where the young man found out at age 25 that in the eyes of the Rabbanut he's not Jewish, because his mother converted Orthodox in Romania, but his mother was deaf. And the Rabbanut in Israel does not believe that deaf people, because of the importance of the Shema, she is not really Jewish. So he found that out at age 25 when he tried to bury his mother. And he was told by the Rabbanut of his town in Kfar Saba that they will not bury her, because in their records, she is not Jewish. And therefore, he is not Jewish.
Where was she buried?
She was buried in the Christian cemetery near Kfar Saba.
Oh my God.
And he is one angry young man. And the third couple was a woman that studies a PhD in gender and is refusing to be bought and sold like a cow. So this is the ketubah that is issued by the Rabbanut. Anyway, we invited thousands of people to a wedding of people they don't know. We brought on the bima the 3 couples from Israel. They each said in English, why are they here without their families and getting married here with conservative and reform rabbis? The wonderful Rabbi Elliot Cosgrove officiated in the gay couple. The wonderful Angela Buckdahl officiated in the couple of the Israelis. We had reform conservative, the leading people of the movements were officiating in the wedding. The statement was a letter signed by 1,500 participants demanding freedom of choice in marriage and divorce in Israel. Everyone got a cupcake with a ring inside. We got all the gowns from Clarafeld. Yes, for the dress, what's it called? Kleinfeld. Yes, he has 19,000 gowns, and he said you can take any gown you want. We, of course, assume that we'll use them on Shabbat and we'll return them on Sunday. But Kleinfeld doesn't take dresses back. We had to schlep them back to Israel. Each one cost thousands. Beautiful, beautiful gowns. So we did it once in Washington, D.C. during the APAC, so that hundreds of rabbis, Reform Conservative, can come to 3 weddings and a statement. You can look at the Washington Post and see 3 weddings and a statement. And we could do it also in Colorado. Bring 3 couples from Israel, have you, Mark, and you, Rachel, officiate in the weddings of Israelis, and everyone in the audience will quickly understand the problem. Why are these people from Israel coming here to have a Jewish wedding? It defies the mind that they can't have the Jewish wedding that they want. Why are Reform Conservative rabbis not able to officiate in a wedding in Israel? The reason is that the institutions they went to school, I gather that you are graduates of the JTS? Yes?
We both went to Ziegler School in Los Angeles.
Yofi, Ziegler, JTS, Leo Beck, and HUC are all.
There are actually two other rabbis here. Rabbi Lynn Goldsmith, who's a Reform rabbi, and Rabbi Steve Booth Nadav, who's a Reconstructionist rabbi.
I'm sorry.
So we have the whole.
You are.
No, we have the whole gamut. We're all treif. We're all treif.
Right. All these rabbis are not considered rabbis because they're graduates from institutions that are not recognized as institutions of Torah learning in the state of Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, this should make you very angry because these institutions are recognized by every university on the planet. These institutions are recognized by the Pope. I visited some of the institutions that ordain Orthodox rabbis in Israel. Some of them are PO boxes. Some of them don't exist. So this is another thing we need to fight. Next time you meet Netanyahu, don't ask about Iran. Don't ask about peace and war. Raise your hand and ask, why is my rabbi not recognized in the Jewish state as a rabbi? That is a nice question to ask. I want to finally say something. This is many years of marriage speaking. I believe that love is what remains after we know the truth. And your rabbis allowed you to hear some very hard truths about Israel tonight. Believing that your love of Israel can withstand it. If you end this presentation saying, you know what, when these Israelis get their head together, that's when I'll talk about Israel again, then I failed. I was hoping that you will understand that there are Israelis that share your values, that Israel is way too important to be left to the Israelis, that you can't, it's not a spectator sport. You need to participate, and we will offer you ways to participate. Support the women of the wall. That's one excellent way to participate. You don't need to embroider a tallit on a stain-resistant material, but you can send us a check so we can hire the lawyers we need, and the security we need, and the media we need, and the infrastructure that we need to become a movement that will in the end prevail. Did we win so far? Yes. It was illegal to wear a tallit, and now we all wear talitot. It's no picnic, as you can see with my coffee stains, but we can wear a tallit. A policeman cannot arrest you for wearing a tallit anymore. We can wear phylacteries. Not only that, we did a workshop on wearing phylacteries at the wall, and no one stopped us. We can pray out loud. We can light a menorah. We can read the book of Esther. And we're allowed to read Torah, but we're not allowed to bring the Torah scroll, and that's what we're working on. So we have one of our 4 strategic goals. We won 3 of them, and we're quite close to the end. And I'm waiting for Meredith's children to one day explain to me when I'm an old lady at the women's section, and they'll say, oh, lady, it's always been like that. We always had bat mitzvahs. We always read Torah. It was always like, it's natural to a Jewish state. Of course, we have equality at the women's section. That's what I'm waiting for. So thank you very much. Toda rabba, everyone.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Nechama. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Very inspiring. Keep up the work. We send you our love and our support and our brachot.
And stay safe, Rabbi, as you jeopardize your body going down this hill.
I think it's safer than being a woman of the wall, actually.
But there's a purpose going to the wall. I just don't see what's the point. Anyway, bye-bye, Shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
Everyone stay healthy. Thank you for having us. It's been a joy.
Rabbi Mark, she is a pistol. I really, really like her a lot.
Me too. Me too.
Oh my God.
She's great.
What a woman. Brave.
She's very.
That's the first time I've heard her.
Me too.
Oh, wow. Wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow.
Yeah, she's great. An inspiration.
Yep, yep.
She's been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
Say again?
She's been doing this a long time.
I think about 30 years or so.
Well,
Yeah.
she said it's the 30th anniversary, right?
Oh yeah, she did do.
Wow.
She did say
Wow.
that. Yes, she did. Yeah, at least 30
Wow.
years. So it is disappointing. I didn't know the story about Hadassah, that Hadassah event. That's disappointing.
Yeah.
That was really disappointing.
Yep. Yep.
But hopefully that won't happen again.
Anyway, thank you for having that
That was an
program.
amazing program. Thank you.
Amazing.
Wow.
So great.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Have a good day.
Enjoy the
Oh, and by the
beautiful day.
way, Rabbi Mark, I agree with Anat about skiing.
I was gonna say something like a Jewish mama.
That was hilarious. I agree with her 100%.
But look, just
Enjoy.
look a minute. Look.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Oh.
Beautiful.
Oh,
Is that, where are you? Breckenridge?
Breckenridge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Breckenridge.
so
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
is Baruch with you?
Yep.
Okay.
See, my theory on skiing is
and yes, he's getting ready.
He doesn't
my theory on
understand.
skiing is-
He doesn't understand
if-
skiing either because it just is like just time where I leave him. Anyway.
Well,
I have the
enjoy.
theory- I have the theory of skiing. If I'm going downhill at 60 miles an hour, that means the tree is coming uphill at 60 miles an hour.
Yeah,
That's 120 miles an hour. I don't like it.
yeah, that's pretty much my I share your understanding of skiing.
I just don't understand people who live in Colorado and don't ski, but that's my
I like walking. Walking
I
is
love
good,
snow shilling.
but no.
We've tried. It's too scary for me.
Yeah, it's too.
The last time I went skiing, I was at Eldora and the bunny slopes. I came downhill, came to a stop. Then I fell down. And then I couldn't move my thumb. So this is when Bill Shivitz was in practice. How long ago it was. And he says, well, you have pitcher's thumb. I said, I was skiing, not playing baseball.
Well, what about the time you lost your ski?
Oh, and then there was one time my ski fell off.
Pitcher's thumb in Colorado has been renamed skier's thumb, actually. This is a very common ski injury.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't even moving. And then one time I'm on a lift and my ski falls off. So the guy at the top obviously helps me off. And I'm sort of walking down this little, I swear she was 5 years old, zips down the hill. It goes, Mister, is this you skiing? It's like, yes.
Amazing.
All right, everyone.
Well,
have a
good day.
beautiful day. It's beautiful out.
Enjoy the skiing,
Yep.
Rabbi.
Yep.
Stay safe. We need you in
Bye,
town.
everybody. Have a good rest of the day. It's gorgeous out.
Looks like Yehudis wants to say something to us.
No,
Oh,
actually, I was just going to add to Anat's last comment. What skiing and women of the wall have in common, both are a slippery slope. So
Yeah, exactly. Slippery slopes.
Well, slippery slope to what?
whatever it's
I mean, that's what the Rabbanut say about wearing the wall. That's why they're banning them. So that's
expression, slippery slope.
that's the whole point of that story about the woman and the mother, right?
Yeah.
Because it's in the eyes of the Rabbanut, it's a slippery slope because women will ask like, well, why can't we read from the Torah? Da, da, da. So it's a dangerous parallel,
Yeah.
I think.
Because then who
But,
knows what it's all going to lead to.
But they're definitely both dangerous. I mean, they really every month they are putting themselves in danger. But anyway,
Well, it was a great program. Thanks, Rabbi. And thanks
Rabbi,
Anat,
one
for
last question. I didn't want to ask her. Does she have a guard? Does she have security?
I think they do have some of their own security.
Because I would think that she would be in danger. Wow. Okay.
And she's been
thanks
in
very
jail
much.
quite a few times.
Many
Bye.
times. Many times.
Hey, Stephanie, are you going to the Louisville?
I
gun
cannot. I
violence?
can't.
You're
Are you
not?
going to go?
I was thinking of it, but I was looking for someone to go with.
I can't go today, but
I'm not sure I want to be in a crowd. I just, even though I'm fully vaxxed, I'm
yeah,
not
well,
sure.
there is that. There is
Yeah.
that. And my own take between the two, I'd rather see everybody march to the state capitol than Louisville.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? I'd rather us when, on a day that the legislature's in session, I'd rather see us all down there.
Right.
We should have asked Daphne Michelson about why it's
Yeah.
so ridiculously hard to get anything passed.
Well, R's and scared D's.
House and what?
R's, Republicans, and scared Democrats. That's why. My 2 cents.
Yeah.
So Rabbi,
All right,
I'm
guys.
going to send you an email that about some issues that came up in our social action committee meeting. So I hope I can hear back from you at some point.
Who are you talking to?
You.
Me? Oh, me. Okay. I thought you were talking
Okay.
to Stephanie.
Okay. So long. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, everybody.
Bye.